I mean, I have an audience of millions who just enjoy hearing stories, reading, and then hopefully that's contagious, and then it spreads from there, and more people begin to read.
Reid Moon is the owner and curator of Moon's Rare Books, a true bucket list bookstore in Provo, Utah. We have him as a guest today, and it's so wonderful because I have known Reid since his Dallas days when his deep fascination with books first intrigued me and sparked a lasting curiosity that led me to follow his journey closely, even as his path eventually carried him from Dallas to Utah. I have followed his story ever since, especially as his social media presence skyrocketed and introduced the world to the remarkable histories behind his collection. During a visit to his new store in Utah, Reid generously welcomed me and my family in one of his private show and tells. He brought history to life through thousands of rare books, documents, and artifacts he has collected over the past 3 decades. Hello, everybody. I am so happy to have here Reid Moon. I met Reid here in Dallas, Texas, a long time ago at his bookstore, where he already was collecting and reselling out of print books, etc. And what he does has always fascinated me. Reid, welcome, and how are you today?
Thank you. Good to be here. Looking forward to having this chat. I grew up in Dallas, Texas. I was there until college time, and then I went to BYU. And then while I was at BYU, I went on a mission to Bolivia, South America, came back, and I've moved back and forth between Utah and Texas, and currently I live in Provo, Utah.
2 years in Bolivia, and I'm taking you're fluent in Espanol?
Sí, pues, todavía.
Todavía, that's so good. So I have so many questions. Why do you have so many glorious looking books right there?
Well, I own a bookstore. It's called Moon's Rare Books, and it started out as a small church bookstore for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Dallas, Texas. That's how it started many years ago, going back about to the 1980s. People would come in asking for books that were out of print. Well, I began tracking those down before there was an internet. And over the years, I've transitioned into just doing pretty much rare books, covering church history, biblical history, literature, and pop culture. So I tell people, if you walk into my bookstore, I have something that ties to everything that's happened in the history of the world since the printing press, with no more than 1 degree of separation.
Wow, that is amazing. And so sure enough, like everybody's impressed and you prove them right.
Yes. I've never been stumped.
So you have traveled the world of, I think, over 50 countries, right? Tracking down those rare books.
Yes.
And what first sparked your love for book and stories?
That goes back to when I was a child. My mother on Saturdays would do the baking for the week and baking cookies. And with my siblings, we would sit around and listen. And she would play stories from, I remember, Bible stories and stories from the Book of Mormon while we would listen, and she would answer any questions. And so I love stories from a very early age, back to when I was very young. And so I've always loved books. I've always been surrounded by books.
So your mom basically is the one that instilled that
Yes.
excitement for the stories. Was there a specific
Absolutely,
way
yes.
she impersonated voices, or there's just the way she read them?
Absolutely, yes. I can very vividly remember those stories many decades later.
I have so many questions about what your thoughts are, the data, probably maybe from the store, etc., that you have about how is it love and passion for reading nowadays versus maybe years ago?
Well, I would have to say from my experience, reading is down dramatically. I don't have the numbers, but just from my interactions with people, yes, we are a bookstore, so typically people have an interest in books, and but it's more, young people are not collecting books or buying books nearly at the same pace they were when I first started. I know that because I see it in the customers that we have. And that, in a way, is sad. There's a great distraction. Everybody has that. For them, that's their library, that's everything they need. They're entertained. And that is a bit sad, but I will also say that there's still quite an interest in bookstores. It is a place where people enjoy visiting. And we have a lot of youth groups schedule an activity here. And initially, the kids are quite reluctant, saying, oh, that's a bad idea. That seems like the most boring activity ever. But once I get to sharing stories, talking with them, their attitude changes, and usually they don't want to leave because I have story after story, and it just makes it fun. People enjoy a good story.
Okay, so then how are you able to accomplish that? What happens? What is it that you share, or how is it that you share it, that instills that spark again or reignites that desire to?
A lot of times, like yesterday, we had a group of young men, young women, and for 1 hour, and I just shared stories for an hour, and they did not want to leave. We are a type of museum bookstore. Half of what we have is not for sale. It's the stories. And we also open our store up to the public. I've always enjoyed sharing stories, but kind of the only negative to social media is we now have so many visitors that I don't have the luxury to talk to every one of them individually. And so we have about 75,000 people a year that visit the bookstore and have over 4 million followers on social media. And so what we decided to do is that we would charge for those events, but we would donate it to charity. And so that's what we do. And so on the weekends when I'm in town, we will do a series of what I call show and tell events where I educate people. And I tell them to name any person, place, event. It's never the same. And I have a book, a document, or an artifact that I can add to any story. And so it excites people, and it's become one of the favorite activities for people in the know who are around here. And for example, the weekend before Christmas, we had five show and tell sessions with a total of over about 300 people. So many people wanted to. We have an empty space 2 doors over. We went there, set up 60 chairs, and so we had about 60 people at a time, back to back to back to back to back for 5 hours straight. So there is a thirst to learn. It takes a little more effort to read. It's easier to listen to somebody, but I say that is better than nothing. Just the educational aspect of it.
I wonder if it will be a very good study, social study, in which we realize, like, okay, so oral. So you're saying that show and tell is like more verbal, oral, and then once upon a time, Cavern Days, it was like that. But then, if it's going to be a cycle, or if we really need to campaign an incentive, even I remember growing here in Texas. My children would get free passes to a park or something, an amusement park, if they read a certain amount of hours, and we needed to monitor, etc. I wonder if we can just reinstitute that or get kids more excited about reading. You specialize in everything from Shakespeare to Tolkien to sacred religious texts, like you said. What is it about book that you know it makes a big difference, and it's different than anything?
From my experience, I enjoy watching movies, but no movie has ever captured what I've seen in my mind when I've read a book. It's always better in my mind. You just can't bring it. And if you can get that across to young people, that they will enjoy reading a book more than a movie, it doesn't seem like it would be, but it is. And once you capture that, you will never stop reading.
Mm. I love it. I was in an airport the other day and I saw people with hard books, with hard copy books, and I was fascinated, and it's not the norm, but it is so amazing. So, do you think you can be a better movie producer? Or it's just
Well,
us individually, we can be better movie producers in our head.
well,
It's
part of
very
it is they have to most books reading are 12 to 24 hours, and movies are condensed to 2 to 3 hours. And so you lose some of the storytelling aspect when it goes to movies. You just don't have the luxury of literally going page by page and really developing the story on a
yeah.
movie. You have to condense it, and so that's the difficulty. In you just can't get the full story.
Yeah. And then we are in an instant gratification kind of society. Do you have some tips or tricks on how you have witnessed or encouraged somebody to start reading? And have you seen how the process has been, and slow or quick, and how the person's just like, okay, I can do
Sometimes
this.
I think it takes a little prodding, like a reward.
Yeah.
I've taught youth groups in Texas, and to encourage them, I've offered some, like you mentioned earlier, if you read this, you will get a reward. And but the more they do that, they realize, wait, I actually don't need a reward. I will just read for fun. And I think sometimes just a little carrot that prods them to read. I have no other. That's just my personal experience.
Yeah.
That then also telling the stories, getting them excited enough to get them interested. I'll tell a 2-minute version of a story, and they go, "Wow, I really want to know myself."
How can you tell somebody about what you just said? Like, you can paint it in the screen of your imagination better than in a movie. How is it that reading can shape imagination?
I don't know that you can just tell somebody that will happen. It comes from experience. It just comes from actually doing it, sitting there with them, reading to them. And I remember many years later looking forward. Granted, this would have been like maybe third grade, but the teacher said, every day at this time, we will read. And I remember listening to those stories and just the imagination. That's what I wanted to do in my free time, was read, because it was that exciting. And I know from social media, when I read the comments, just me talking about books and telling little backstories, I have people say, I am decided to pick up a book for the first time since college. Like in 20 years they haven't read, but now they're reading again. And so I'm everybody's biggest cheerleader by talking about books every day online. And I think that has more effect. One person can have an effect. I mean, I have an audience of millions who just enjoy hearing stories, reading, and then hopefully that's contagious, and then it spreads from there, and more people begin to read.
Yes, yes, and that's me. That's one of my goals this year, and I need to not talk about it, but do it too. and the thing is also, me, English is my second language. I love to take those illustrated books and more a little bit advanced readers with pictures. I mean, literally. I mean, somehow we need to start somehow, and I love personal development books, etc. What books do you recommend for the youth to pick up and say, this is a good one? This probably, I mean, everybody has different tastes, but are there certain types of books or genres that you think are especially powerful entry points for the youth to want to pick it up?
Well, there are many lists that have been put together because most people tend to gravitate to whether they want fantasy or young adult fiction. There are many lists, the 100 greatest novels, and I say you look at that list, see if anything jumps out. I have my own favorites. I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. I think it's
That's
a
a
book
good
that can be
one.
read over and over. Um, but I know many people read other books. There are, I think it's interesting. I, I think you can't go too far off. I was just looking yesterday, um, the novel that has sold more copies than any other book is Don Quixote by Cervantes. They say that 500 million copies have been printed. And then after that, it's Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities.
Oh,
And then there's The Little Prince, and then there's Harry Potter. Those are all in the top 10 all-time novels. So I think it's word of mouth got that many people to read it. It was recommended because it can't just be an assignment in school. It has to be word of mouth from your friends, and many novels have passed the test of time, and we are still reading those books centuries later.
that is so good. Those are all classics or fun ones that, yes, if you're listening, if you're in the youth category, try any of those. Try any of those because he just mentioned a great list.
Well, and even just a few weeks ago was the 250th anniversary of the birth of Jane Austen. Jane
Yeah.
Austen actually was not popular, her books, during her lifetime. They took off many years later. That actually is the case with many of the best-known books were not immediate bestsellers. You can take Moby Dick by Melville. He lived 40 years after it was printed, and it only sold about 3,000 copies during his lifetime. Now it sold millions, but it wasn't until it was recommended and people started reading it that they realized that it was a very good, worthwhile book. And that is like book after book. They just did not sell well. The Great Gatsby did not sell. It wasn't until World War II where they sent 100,000 copies to soldiers. Those soldiers read it. Then after the war, what did they do? Many of them went on to become professors and teachers, and then they recommended a book that was recommended to them, and then it has sold very well ever since. But during the author's lifetime, no, book after book. So also, for me, it's a treasure hunt. You come across a book that maybe you haven't heard of, and you read it, and you go, "Wow, why don't more people read this?" And I think that list is just. I remember after college when I thought would have some free time, and I did. I After 9 p.m. was somewhat free, and I decided to read a book. I can read one page a minute with 90% comprehension, which means I can read your typical 200 to 300 page book. Well, I can really do it more like three pages in 2 minutes, which means I can do a book in 3 to 4 hours. And so for 3 years, I read a book a day.
Oh,
And so I read 1,000 books. That was the most intense reading, but it never got old because I just kept reading and reading. Now my current reading pace is down to about 2 books a week or about 100 books a year.
that's still pretty good, but
Yeah.
definitely less than back in the day.
Yes. But I also realize, and a lot of what I like, I think nonfiction, our history is as interesting as any book. And so I love to read about history. And the more you read, the faster you can read because you are only looking for what you don't know. And so for me, I just love exploring and expanding. I just have this big timeline in my mind of history. And when I read something new, is it better sourced than something I've previously read as far as my understanding of the entire history of the world?
So I'm thinking that's what we take. We believe, right? We're of the same faith, and we know that intelligence, knowledge, is what we take to our next life, right? And many experiences and memories, etc. But then knowledge. What is the what is it that you feel like you've gained reading all
One,
this?
it's given me more confidence and I feel very confident about the future. I feel very confident with things I've read in a religious sense. There's, I mean, yes, there is a bit of unknown out there, but I'm comfortable. I'm just moving on with life. I don't fear the future. Um, and I'd like to be considered a wise old sage that people can come to and ask questions. And I mean, I have 8 children, so I get questions on a daily basis. And I think just having that confidence, it's it shows so that there is a comfort level when people do have a question or want to know something. And um, but what it's made me also realize, as much as I've read and continue to realize, it's like climbing up over a mountain and you think that's the end, and then you see 1,000 more mountains, and you go, I know a lot about this area. This is everything. I know that much.
Wow, amazing. Yes, that's a great perspective. Like you feel like you got to the peak of the mountain and then, oh, wait a minute. There's many other mountains, but at least you're happy you went up there, right?
Well, a lot of people don't make it up a little hill, much less a mountain. And so, um, but just when you think you know a lot, you just are introduced to a new area and you go, wow, I don't know anything about that. And so it's just amazing how much there is to learn. And so I've even started thinking, wow, I think I could have read even more, and I feel like I start looking back. Now, you have to have fun. You have to have activities and sports and be active and a hobby or something. But I think of those times where I maybe mindlessly sat in front of a TV an entire weekend, could have been better put to use. But I do think, I still think those are important activities. But I think if I now am looking back, I'm kind of in my mind at that 2/3 point in life. And it's like, wow, I think I could have been more productive. And how? By learning more, because the more you learn, the more you can share, the more hopefully knowledge you can share with family, friends. Um,
But you do that already, and I know we go through the what ifs, right? And there's always more we could have done or could do. But I want to tell the audience that when he was here in Dallas, he was so generous and so excited that he invited us to his private library in his home, and he imparted more knowledge and wisdom and memories and stories, and that is fascinating. And then that's the case when I have gotten to visit his store in Utah, and just the fact that you say you have so many presentations back to back to back to back, I I think is such an amazing treasure and legacy you're sharing. And you mentioned your 8 children. How is it with them? Are they
well,
readers?
2 of them work at the bookstore with me, so they enjoy books. And I think over the years, all of my children at certain points have worked at the bookstore because it's been very accessible and just a natural place to go work. And um, in fact, yeah, the 2 who work here they probably read in the hundreds of books a year category of the areas they enjoy. So they're definitely readers. I mean, I see them reading all the time.
Okay, so you've done a good job. Did you do something similar like you did, your mom did with you? Read them
Uh,
and
I not as probably as well as I could have, but it did rub off the love of reading and learning, and so it's just on their own. They're very motivated to go read.
And by example, so you probably, even when you didn't do it the same way as your mom, you have demonstrated your passion for learning and books in different ways. And I know
Yes.
you take them with you on many trips. Do they also help you like choose what you buy and say,
Oh,
Dad,
absolutely.
get that
Yes.
one? So what's been your biggest, most exciting thing your kids have been a part of for your acquisition? Like anything you've acquired?
Well, they got me to actually explore literature in other languages, especially Japanese manga and
Manga.
anime. They're just fascinated with that, and it's now become a pretty big part of our bookstore. And we have people make special trips just to see what we have. But that was 100%. Well, and I had resisted traveling to Japan for many, many years. I'd been to I'd been all over the world, but I'd never been to Japan. Before Japan, I'd been to China and Korea and Cambodia and Vietnam and Thailand, but I'd never been to Japan. But
Why? Why not? Many people, that's
I
where
was
they want
just,
to go.
I was just, I just, I was envisioning the city of Tokyo filling up the entire island, and not realizing that you go an hour outside of Tokyo and it's beautiful mountains and everything. But we went on our first trip to Japan 3 years ago, and we've been there 6 times since. So
So you,
it is now our second most visited country after the UK, which is kind of the prime location for acquiring Bibles and literary works.
okay, so tell me about Japan. What is it that you learned to appreciate and love?
Well organized, a very friendly culture, very proper manners, etiquette. Food is astounding, and just a lot of history, and it's never dull. I mean, we've been 6 times, and it's like the kids. Well, we're going again in 2 months, so that'll be the seventh trip.
Oh,
So,
wow. What are you looking for this
well,
book?
that's just it. Fortunately, I have several people who sell books, and they look for things for me. They know what I'm looking for,
Oh,
and so
okay.
we go visit them, and we hit. There is a place in Tokyo called Jimbocho, which is Booktown. It's unlike any other big city in the world. There's a 2 square mile area with hundreds of bookstores. That's all it is bookstores. Almost every business is bookstores and places to eat. That's it. And you can just go explore that area for days, and it's never dull.
Wow, that sounds like a place I would like to go to as so well. Do you have anything around you like that you can reach with your hand or something that you would like to show us?
Well, I
You
have
love everything. I'm sure you love everything back there.
well, okay. Within hand reach, I'm going to show you the most. I'll just do a series. I'll show you the most influential scientific work of the 19th century.
Okay.
Do you have any idea? Do you have any idea what that could be?
Okay, influential
The most
scientific
influential scientific work of the 19th century.
scientific work. You got me there. I don't know.
It literally changed the whole scientific field. It is Darwin's Origin of the Species.
Oh,
From
okay.
a scientific standpoint, there's nothing bigger than Darwin's Origin of the Species. Came out 1859.
So what about that copy? Is that
Oh,
copy?
that's a first edition.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
That's why it's here. Right behind me. This book, it's a physics book. It's in German, but it's the first book to ever publish Einstein, his theory of relativity. And so right here, Einstein, the first time that's published. But I will, let me just grab Lord of the Rings.
And I want to tell the audience, well, he gets that literally you go to that bookstore and it's like you're in a street in London to start with, right? Because of the brick
Her
cobblestone.
cobblestone, yes.
Yes, it's just beautiful. And then each room has a theme or topic from Harry Potter to Wizard of Oz to what else do you have?
Well, one of the rooms is just children's literature, so you'll see first editions of all the famous children's works like Winnie the Pooh. Speaking of which, Winnie the Pooh is 100 years old this year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And Cat in the Hat, Harry Potter, etc. We have one room that is just movie props from famous movies. We have one room dedicated to Bibles, 600 years of religious history, and then one room European and American history. So it's a lot of fun. And yes, definitely a museum disguised as a bookstore. Well,
Yes.
here is a first edition Lord of the Rings, the first volume, printed in 1954-55, 17 years after The Hobbit. And this copy has a letter written by Tolkien in his elfish script.
Oh, wow.
So that's a lot of fun. And Lord of the Rings sells better now after the movie came out. During Tolkien's lifetime, it was an okay seller, but it wasn't a bestseller. He didn't make a lot of money. It gave him a little extra spending money. But now, a lot of times with the addition of a movie, it takes something to the next level. That's what happened. I mean, that's what's happened with many works. They become much more popular after their people get their first introduction and they go, okay, I want more of that. How do they get more of that? They go to the book and they get a lot more background information.
Yes, that's another way to do it. Yeah.
Well, and I find that young people, whether they realize it or not, they like history in large part because they have maybe seen a play or something that all of a sudden gets them very excited about something you normally wouldn't think they would like. Now, this is handwritten ledger, a diary, and it covers 9 years. And at first, people go, "Oh, I don't know if that's interesting." Well, but if I tell you it covers 9 years, it covers the years 1795 till 1804. And then I tell you that it ended in 1804 because that's when this guy is killed in a duel with Aaron Burr. This is Alexander Hamilton's diary.
Goodness. That is
So,
amazing. How did you get that?
well, that's another half an hour story on how I got that. But people love history, and a lot of times it takes a play, which is Hamilton, that gets them very excited, and then they love anything Alexander Hamilton. So when people come here, that's what they're finding. They can name any person, place, event, and I have something that gets them excited. I have, I actually have documents from Cuba, which is right near there,
Yes.
signed by Fidel Castro, and uh,
Oh,
and well, and Che Guevara, which goes back to the Cuban Revolution. So a 1 degree of separation, I can hit. I mean, I have newspapers from Cusco, Peru, going back 200 years, back to the independence of South America from
but
Spain.
George Washington.
Well, George Washington, I'll grab something quickly.
So this is what happens, boys and girls, brothers and sisters. You start asking, and then he delivers.
Here is a handwritten letter, George Washington. This is his signature right here. That is his red wax seal. This is during the
That's
American.
not a copy. That's not a
No,
copy.
this is the real thing. You can even read on here. It's sent to a general in the Revolutionary War, and he's giving instructions because the enemy has reached the edge of town. 1,500 men. It takes you right to the action. I do have movie props from several big movies, including
Harry Potter, I remember,
Harry
right?
Potter. I have one.
Marvel, Marvel, like.
Marvel. Yes, I have Marvel. I have Star Wars. I have a little bit. I'll give you a quick peek. Mandalorian. That is
Mandalorian.
season 1 Mandalorian right there.
Yes, she's showing it in my show. Yay. Thank you, thank you. That is so great.
And here's a wand held by Hermione, Emma Watson.
Oh, Emma Watson.
How does that spell go? Wingardia Leviosa.
Leviosa. Yes.
Here's a little whip. Indiana
Indiana
Jones.
Jones. Indiana
That's
Jones.
from Temple of Doom.
That is so great.
This one may or may not know, but You're Killing Me, Smalls. This is the ball from Sandlot where the Beast chews it up with the Babe Ruth signature right there.
That's great. Yes.
So fun things. I
Love
mean,
that
that's
movie.
just tip of the iceberg.
Yes, and this is what happens when you go there. He's like, okay, you ask, and then let me see, let me think of what I have, and then he goes. But you have those many of those articles in a climate control safe, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's serious stuff. How can parents create an environment rich with books, where books feel more inviting than
Well,
forced?
I think it's by example and just having a nice home library where the children are encouraged to pick up the books and read and have a nice variety. And you'll find that they will gravitate toward that library because many books, just looking at the cover, are irresistible based on the age of the children. So you just have age appropriate books, and you will find that that passion for books is contagious, and they will latch onto it and start reading on their own. That's the experience I've seen.
Yeah, I agree. Can I pop quiz you?
Oh, okay, go for it.
Just from like 9 to 12, what's a good book you would recommend, or that used to be one of your favorite ones, or you recommend?
It would be Charlotte's Web.
Oh, great. That's a good one. Talks about friendship, right?
Yes. Well, and it has a line, an opening line that it could be the opening line to a horror book, but you just don't know it because the opening line is Charlotte saying, "Papa, where are you going with that axe?"
Oh my goodness, yes, that's that's funny, and that's intriguing, right? You want to
but that captures your interest. Like, wait,
Yes.
wait, what? What are you doing?
Yeah. Okay, from like 12 to 15.
That's where Harry Potter is they're old. You're old enough to where you will just not stop reading that.
That's so true. That's so true. So it's a series, so even better, right? Because then they
Yes.
want to continue reading. How about 15 through 18, 19?
That's when you go to
Lord of the Rings.
Jane Austen, Lord of the Rings, Tolkien, Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Jane Austen. By the time you hit that age, you have opened yourself up, Bram Stoker, Dracula. You just can take off there. So you're ready for everything about them, as far as the most the books that have sold. Well, there'll be some more college age, like A Tale of Two Cities, and even probably Don Quixote is more 18 plus. It's a little more sophisticated.
You were going to say something about Dracula earlier.
Oh, Dracula is on the border. I mean, a lot of younger people read that just because, but there are literary aspects that can be picked up from it, just the way the story is told, that make it, and it's a good read for the 15 to 18 group.
Wonderful. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. I just want to go and read. So I encourage you, if you're in Utah, to stop by for sure. Like a virtual tour anyone can find in your website, or
Oh yes, you can find a virtual tour on YouTube at Moon's Rare Books. We have a channel.
okay.
You can also we occasionally do short tours on TikTok and Instagram, Moon's Rare Books. So, Or you just Google that and it will pull up the videos. You just say tour Moon's Rare Books and it'll pop up.
So thank you so much. And now you know that for you to be more confident in life, have more knowledge, grab a book, and then it will take you to many places, like it's taken Reid Moon, right?
That's right. Absolutely. It's been fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.